doesn't come up in here, or if it does, I just don't know where. It's just I'm gonna go to YouTube now and find the goddamn thing. So yeah, we're gonna be live in a sec. Maybe people will come in. This will be the most controversial video that I've ever done. What's crazy is that my questions get perceived as controversial, but you're definitely the most controversial person. And people that don't know you other than spaces, I have a nice intro prepared for you.
Oof.
Not as good as Tanks. I think Tanks was just too easy. He puts himself out there way too much. But I'll share this on Twitter. We'll get going, and this will be fun. It'll be like a. It won't be as playful as my streams with Don, where we just riff and go off the wall and just talk about nothing. But this will be actually crypto related, but we'll on the controversial side, just to finish off everyone's week of FUD.
Love it. Let me get on Twitter.
And if anyone's watching this on the replay, it sucks for you. You're gonna have to fast forward like 2 or 3 minutes. There we go. And I don't have a thumbnail, but that's okay. I never do. Yeah, this will be good. Yeah, this is definitely going to be safer than my live streams with Don, at least, I would imagine. Because I don't know what that guy's going to say ever. I don't know what he's going to talk about. I don't know how long he's going to talk about something. And then when he runs out of things to say, he just starts yelling at the chat.
At least I'm predictable.
Oh my god! And he has no Atom tokens, but yeah. Which way? I'm backwards here. I gotta go this way. There we go. All right. So we do have someone in the chat. Nice. We have a couple people in the chat. So good morning, welcome, good afternoon. We're gonna get started literally in like a minute. I just shared it on Twitter. It's also going to stream on Twitter and my YouTube. You shared it. Awesome. If you guys in the chat can share it, and maybe, depending how long this takes, if you guys have questions, definitely we'll scroll them across the bottom of the screen, and of course doesn't say our names in the bottom. But this is Eric from Archway, formerly Phi Labs. All right, so this is what I've got for Eric here. I've got his intro. Been preparing it all night. Briefly, we'll touch on Archway, but then I've got 5 of his most controversial statements that I'm sure he can't wait to defend or correct me on. Right? I mean, maybe they're not perfect. They're paraphrased quotes from you from either spaces. You were on a live stream with me and Tank a few months ago, and then I did catch that podcast with you where you had a very hard time explaining protocol on liquidity to somebody who has a bunch of DeFi tokens.
Yeah,
because but to be fair, the protocol on liquidity is a little different on Astro Vault, which is the DEX that you're primarily involved in, right?
Yeah, try and explain the difference between protocol earned liquidity and what people understand from protocol owned liquidity. It's a fundamentally different model, but yeah, I'm just amazed that you're able to limit it down to 5. I'm just out here spewing crap all the time.
No, we'll have 5 more next week. This could be weekly. You're fudding, man. You're the reason why the Stars, Juno, and Osmo are down 99.8%. It's because of a statement you made on a Twitter space with 21 other people.
I'm hoping to educate because that drop obviously was going to happen regardless, and people can see it coming if you know what you're looking for. And I'm trying to steer crypto towards being business savvy instead of just having a bunch of economies built by developers that have no business developing economies. But that's where we're at right now.
All right. So, I mean, besides being the biggest trash talker in all of Cosmos, probably, I get a bad rap for just being inquisitive. I'm a big bag holder. I'm not trying to FUD anything. I don't have a project. I've never been paid by a project, right? But yeah, Eric Wiseman, hopefully I spelled your name right when it comes across the bottom of the screen later. You did work for Phi Labs, right? That's the core team that built out Archway. Is that right?
Yeah, for the last 9 months or so, I was their token economics lead. If you go to archway.io/white papers, I wrote the token economics paper and contributed a lot to their tokenomics modeling and development. I still help out. I still run tokenomics calls. I'll be doing one in 2 hours.
All right. So you basically got fired because no one read those papers. I think I read some of one, and then the other one was like a PDF that was taking a long time to load on my phone, and I was like, we'll do this on a like the next time there's a hurricane in New York, I'll read this. But you have controversial takes, perceived controversial takes, because you're trying to actually apply real world economics and business models to Web3, which is just nobody wants to hear that. Let's be honest. Nobody wants to hear that at all, especially when their bags are suffering. You have bag trauma at this point of the bear market. And then, of course, you come on these spaces and say all these things and use all these words like supply, demand, revenue, cost. I think you said balance sheet once, and then Twitter rugged everybody. But people know you as the Neck. That's your nickname.
Oh God,
the Neck. It's unclear if you actually chose this nickname yourself or not.
I promise I did not. That's the raccoon supply.
So when you were a kid, you went to summer camp and someone just gave you this nickname, or you went to one of those Cosmos after parties and someone tried to give you a tattoo on your neck and you got into a fight. I don't know. But I'm going to go with you got this at summer camp one year when it was not in your control. And again, you're the self-proclaimed tokenomics expert, even though you had no token up until recently. Relentlessly attacking all the big protocols in Cosmos, even though you're part of Cosmos and you love Cosmos.
Yeah, absolutely. Cosmos has the best tech and the worst economics. Perfect place for someone like me to come and build a stronghold, try to fix some stuff.
But now you do have a protocol. You do have a token coming that you had a heavy hand in designing. That's Astro Vault. That's Archway's DEX. It's definitely unique. And will finally be live after 3 years of VCs cashing out, right? That's basically Archway's timeline, according to the Juno Telegram that I'm in.
Yeah, I need to go catch up on those communities. All I know is, oh crap.
Sorry, no, that's Core One right now telling you to get off the stream. No, because I was accused recently by a Core One member of taking money from Archway in order to FUD Juno, even though I've done like 15 Juno videos that are not FUD. So
love to see it. Archway tokens live now. Astro Vault's AXV token is not live. Airdrop coming, but yeah, I wanted to show that without VC money and without launching a token, we're the most profitable DEX in the Cosmos ecosystem already, and arguably in Web3 already. And if that's controversial, then you really need to understand how DEXs work.
Well, they don't work. Let's start with that. I've been part of many DEXs that actually Uniswap worked great until there was a Uniswap token. I think anyway. And so Archway is the layer one. It's new addition to Cosmos. It's not an app chain. There'll be multiple applications in the coming weeks, months. And of course, this has been referred to, of course, by your team that has a heavy hand in Archway's design as the value capture chain of the Cosmos. This implies that there is no other value capture chain in the Cosmos. So is there?
No, but not even just in the Cosmos. I mean, Ethereum captures its own value, but something like Uniswap or the core applications that make Ethereum usable, that drive the demand for the ETH token, they're capturing none of the value that they bring into the ecosystem. So what the word value capture, like the phrase, is meant to showcase that you as a builder will be able to capture the value that you provide the ecosystem. Whereas most chains, especially in Cosmos right now, but really in all of Web3, neither the application is capturing the value nor the layer one is. They're just creating stuff that works, and they have no means of sustaining a team.
Got it. All right. So before we get to your 5 most controversial statements, at least that I've heard, I'm sure there are way worse ones. Cosmos is almost Atom token's almost $3 billion. Is that capturing some of the value of the tech inadvertently without actually monetizing it? Is it just an OG token that survived the last bear market? People find it convenient to park money there. Is it capturing any value?
Speculatively, yes. I mean, just from the airdrops, yes. But by definition, like by first principles, like, I don't know, modeling, no. My issue is like the founding business model was, hey, let's build a bunch of brilliant software and let's give it away for free. And if that doesn't make sense as a business, that's literally what Atom and the Cosmos ecosystem was predicated on.
Yeah. Okay. Do they have a chance to capture value if if interchain security actually works out, or you think
There's
that's not?
There's a chance. I know that apparently 2 teams are working on tokenomics overhauls. I have no reason to believe that they're not just forcing Atom 2.0 down everyone's throats, which is not good. Hopefully they're not. All I know is that the multi-PhD ex-senior advisor to the White House, who runs a tokenomics consulting firm that I work for, applied, and we got no answer. And then Gidickian finally pushed us through the Atom Accelerator DAO, and just like, hey, like, come talk to these guys. And they basically just said, no, thanks. We have people working on that. And then launched the Blockworks article, which was completely fluff. And the numbers came from nowhere. So I'm pinging them. I'm hoping there's more stuff that we want to build to bring sustainability to the existing applications, as well as the new wave of applications that will come to the Cosmos, because more will be built here. But yeah, right now we need funding to not go to people's friends, and we need funding to go to things that have a chance of survival.
All right. Well, we'll save those statements for the next video, because that's not on my list yet. We need funding to not go to people's friends. No, I think proof of stake in general, governance is basically operating the same way as like local politics, at least where I live, where yes, it's people's friends getting contracts, getting these advisor roles, getting no-show jobs. Once in a blue moon, somebody gets charged with some kind of fraud, but that's really super rare, right? All right, let's get to the statements. That's what people are going to want to hear. So I got 5 controversial statements here. Don't worry, they're not all going to FUD Atom. They'll FUD all your other tokens, though. And number 1, we'll start with an easy one, because I always wondered about this, and then you said it, and I was like, oh, this is true. Number 1, you said something to the effect of Bitcoin will not have a hard cap of 21 million.
Yep, and a lot of even Bitcoiners do adhere to this and think it'll end up looking something more like Monero's model of very low perpetual inflation. Unfortunately, that challenges the narrative of what people believe is sound money, which is not something that exists. Like, Bitcoin is either a good money or it is a good store of value. It cannot be both. Fundamentally, those are different things. Talk all the crap you want on the dollar devaluing over time and printing out of nowhere. Look at what it's built. That the purpose of money is to be a leverage towards efficiency. And if it's a store of value, if it has this maximum supply, then one, not only is it not profitable to run these validators and secure the chain, which maybe people will operate at a loss to keep it trusted. Like, that is entirely possible. The issue with considering that to be a money is if that were money, if that were a global reserve currency, and that was in such high demand, then people would hoard the money, they'd shove their cash under a mattress, and it would not incentivize the further investments required for research and development and for starting new businesses and for growth. So you need money to devalue over time. A sound money is constantly devaluing, so that in order to try to outpace the devaluation, the dilution, you have to invest to try to grow it. And that's what sparks economy and growth.
Yeah, I never thought of Bitcoin as money. To me, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense as a network, right? And I think the value is that it's this permissionless, borderless network that's super secure. That could make the token a store of value where people hoard it and maybe borrow against it. And then something else is used as money on the network, right? I don't know. Or maybe a parallel network that's secured by Bitcoin, something like that. Spending Bitcoin over the years has been horrible for people. I have friends who spent Bitcoin when it was like $100 on, like, I don't know, like a bag of weed or something like that. And they got murdered. As you know, Bitcoin's definitely, I think it's already deflationary as these wallets disappear and people lose their tokens. But you're saying small amount of inflation perpetually is a lot better for money than what's currently the model. So there'll be a vote and a fight and possibly more forks at the end of this inflation schedule to increase the cap.
I'm definitely expecting at least one more fork out of this, because some people won't adhere to raising the max cap. They want, like, oh, infinity divided by 21 million. And you'll have it's one thing to have the debate between Bitcoin Cash, like, is it cash or is it store of value? But now it's really going to be like, is it meant to be a currency? Is it meant to be some form of a sound money? Or is it meant to just be some network of nodes? And as it's less profitable to run, like right now we just all assume, like, oh, number go up because of halving. Like, that doesn't actually make sense. So it's like, oh, well, the number has to go up to keep it profitable to mine. Like, yes, Maybe it's just not profitable to mine.
Well, that's the thing. The miners are going to probably have the most to gain or to lose at the end of this, right? Because if Bitcoin's still increasing in value, they still want to get paid in Bitcoin. So it makes sense for miners to want the cap to be lifted, even if it's like a 1% or 2% or 3% inflation. Otherwise, they're going to have to make money doing something else and run this hardware that's expensive to run. So, all right.
Yep.
Number one, Bitcoin does not or will not have a hard cap of 21 million. Interesting, because I always thought about it, because like the miners are supposed to be fighting for these rewards at the end of the 21 million. They're fighting for nothing, and then they have all these expenses at the end of the day. So, all right, that's one. Can you lower your camera a little bit? I want to run the graphic under you so that it's not under me. Yeah, that's perfect.
You almost got my name right.
Damn it. Damn it. We'll fix that. We'll fix that in the next video. No, I'm just kidding. I'll fix it right now. What is that, German?
The first two E's are A.
The first two E's are A?
Yeah.
Really?
And Finnish.
That's German?
Finnish.
Finnish? That's why I could.
There we go. And X Philabs. Philabs up till a week ago.
X Philabs. Well, I made this an hour ago.
Fair enough.
I'm just going to put Astro Vault. Can I put that?
Love it.
Astro Vault. The DEX. All right. There we go. Well, that's a funky spelling. I don't think I've ever seen a Finnish name. Maybe.
Fair enough.
All right, number two. This is if this is a Cosmos crowd here in the chat, you'll cry. App chain thesis doesn't work. The app that you said something like that.
Yeah, that sounds like something I'd say over and over again. Why does everything need a chain, man? I mean, everything has their own chain and their own security, and all the chains run exactly the same. They all have the same block time. Like, they also have the same block space. The issue is all of the chains combined could fit on a single chain because there's so much excess block space. The issue is we're renting instead 20 times as many servers. Like, the expenses are really, really high, and we're diluting so many tokens when they could all just run on one chain. It's scary to think about. Love the idea of an internet of blockchains, and eventually that horizontal scaling through IBC is going to absolutely be great. Let's scale there once we get there. Like, let's wait until we have the revenue to justify that additional expense. And in the Archway economics paper, it's got my name on it and everything, we go into a mock cost benefit analysis of the expense of running an app versus running on Archway versus running an app chain. And it's like over a $3.5 million difference in year one. And unless you're getting substantial benefit from the sovereignty of having your own chain, which I'm arguing you're really not, unless you are getting that, how do you justify that additional expense?
And that either gets passed on to the users in the form of fees, or it puts the sustainability at risk when you have these volatile market swings, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, the holders in the form of dilution, that you have to print more tokens to incentivize the validators. All of the validators are spending so much money per month renting all of these servers and this hardware. You have to pay all of these service providers for all the integrations. Like, if you want to be on Cosmos Station and not be, or on MintScan and not be taken off, if you want to pay all the wallets of the world, whereas all of that's already, like, if you build out as an application instead, all of that's already covered. Like, so all of the integrations, all of the infrastructure, the additional team members that you need that specifically focus on updating and maintaining that chain, all of that integration's already there, but none of that is bringing you revenue. Like, a blockchain inherently is not valuable. It is a platform that you can do business on. So why spend an extra $3+ million? And on a lot of chains, it's a lot higher than that. Why spend that much money to not make more money?
Can it work for something like DYDX?
Oh, absolutely. They make the revenue. And even then, like, if people are talking about, like, oh, eventually McDonald's will have their own blockchain or something, like, why would they have 100 nodes? Why would it need to be decentralized? If businesses are going to run their own chain, then they can run 5 nodes and do it themselves. Like, the decentralization is... It helps with the idea of trustlessness, but it's not understood. We just assume that it's a good in and of itself. The Juno communities recently talked about lowering the validator set from 100 to 50. That is a brilliant idea. If most of these chains have a Nakamoto coefficient of 7 anyways, and staking doesn't actually incentivize lowering that, which is something I'm working on fixing, what's the point?
Yeah, I put out a tweet like a year ago, and I'm like, the bottom is not in because we don't see any type of consolidation. We don't see validator sets shrinking. We don't see validators just going out of business. They're just running things at a loss. I thought we would see 20 to 30% of the chains just halt and the teams collapse down onto fewer chains. You have more people working on fewer, better applications, and the validator sets probably should shrink, right? Or cease to exist. I go through Minscan sometimes, and I'm not going to name the chains, but everyone knows it's most of the chains. And I just look at the blocks. 0, 0, 0, 0. Some of these chains are still getting funding, and they have zero activity on the chain. What are the validators doing? I don't understand. Kerberos was the best chain because they were the smartest. They built a chain just to farm Osmosis, right? That's basically what they did. And these other chains are not even farming token, like they're doing nothing. So, all right, I agree. App chain thesis, I think DYDX. What about if you have like a monster NFT marketplace like OpenSea? Could it work?
It could work. It doesn't need to work. And the way it should work is it starts off as an application. And if it scales to the point where it needs its own security or it's DDoSing the chain because it's getting so much activity, which, by the way, nothing on Cosmos ever has. Nothing. If it does get to that kind of level, then you go ICS and you spin up your own chain. Like if you don't start with your own chain, it doesn't mean you can never have your own chain. If Astro Vault gets to $3 billion in TVL and is having, I don't know, $100 million in daily volume, and it's using a crap ton of block space, not only, I mean, Uniswap works on Ethereum without their own chain, just saying. And Ethereum has way less block space than something like Archway. But if we ever wanted to, we could just spin up our own chain using ICS on Archway, and it takes zero work on our part. They're already ready to spin that up for us. And Arch could still work for gas. AXV could work for gas as well. But that way you can scale as your business grows, which makes sense in the business world. But nobody's ready for people to bring business to DeFi because they just want wag me fake numbers. And it doesn't work like that. Things have to be logical.
I could see an NFT platform like Stargaze. Obviously, they'd have to do more volume with way less validators, 30 validators, 20 something validators. Most of those validators could be the projects, right? Like the main projects, Bad Kids, TSOS, whatever. And then I like the idea of having the NFT projects with a major voice and governance of its own app chain. But if you're saying that the base expense is in the millions, forget it, right? You can't do that selling $5 NFTs, which is mainly what Stargaze is probably averaging, right? The average mint on Stargaze is probably $5 per NFT, 2,000, 3,000 per collection. It's not going to do it. It's not going to do it.
You have to look at how much the platform itself is earning from these sales, and if that can justify the expense of hosting its own chain. It can't.
It can't.
Fundamentally, right? It can't. And everything about Stargaze could very easily exist as an application on Archway or on Juno. So we need like people are saying a consolidation of chains. Probably we for sure need a consolidation of apps.
Got it. All right. Well, app chain thesis sucks. Let's go to the next question. How about this? Currently, without DOIDX in Cosmos, is there one that you would say, all right, this makes sense because of the way governance has to work or something like that? Ignore the volume and the,
I think maybe Jackal.
Okay.
One, they have a legitimate business, and two, they have to be running nodes anyways for what they do with data storage hosting, that it kind of makes sense to double purpose the nodes. Even then, I don't think it would necessarily have to have its own chain, but for something like them, we've already integrated them with Astro Vault. They're one of our first listings. They're partnering with most of the applications building on Archway. We have a really good working relationship. Even then, it's kind of set up to use the horizontal scaling where Archway is paying for all these great integrations, and Archway can be a monetizable access point for things that they do. If they're selling a terabyte of blocks, a terabyte of data storage for $8 a month, they can have that easily accessed through Archway at say $10 a month because you charge like a $2 premium or something on it, and people don't have to directly interact with their chain to use it. So like that makes a bit more sense because they already involve node infrastructure and provision. So.
All right, let's go to statement number 3. This is, of course, apropos because I caught some crap on Twitter for questioning Osmosis's token. Here, you said something like Osmosis will eventually die, or something like Osmosis will eventually not be able to fund their own development and pay their employees. What does that look like for, 300 million total value locked? Right?
It doesn't look great.
And
Um,
best UI UX in Cosmos, probably.
Yeah.
Bridged to all these other ecosystems. Polkadot, Ethereum, Bitcoin.
If
I don't know, whatever
anybody
else.
can save it, it's their team. But fundamentally, the tokenomics are terrible. And
Right.
they don't have revenue. They're focused on they need all of the people who list against them to pay a ton of money into that pool to basically sell the token constantly monthly for their token, and that's what props up the value. And if they go down, they take down everything else with it due to liquidity leveraging. So fundamentally, right now, 14%, I believe, of inflation. I don't know if it's changed yet, but 14% of inflation is going to LPs and 25% to the team. And this runs into the same issues that we talked about with the Bitcoin issue. They have a max supply. Why? Why do they have a max supply? And the idea is oh, you better get Osmo now, but that means that there is eventually an end date. And at this end date of inflation, no longer are the validators getting direct inflation rewards. No longer is the team getting 25% of inflation, so well over what the LPs combined are getting. And the LPs are no longer earning this emission, which means that they need trade fees and whatever they can extract through MEV to sustain LPs and the team and
the validators.
stakers and validators.
Yeah.
And right now they don't have nearly enough to incentivize any one of those three. So it's I don't foresee how that could switch. Because if it could switch, then it would always be more efficient to not reward all the previous Osmo holders and to start a new chain or a new application to do that. And if that was to be done, it would look exactly like what Astro Vault is and has done, and we already did it.
I foresee, and I'm not saying Osmosis. I'm not going to get in trouble again with Osmosis. They have the most anonymous accounts, right? So maybe not in the next year, but in the next cycle, I think we're going to see a bunch of founders abandon their original projects and end up on different chains with different teams. Maybe I call them sandcastles. They build these sandcastles during the bear market. The tide is out. I mean, the bull market. The tide is out. Sandcastle looks great. As the tide comes in, there's just more gimmicks to keep people on the platform. Eventually, that sandcastle gets completely wiped out by the bear market. But then the tide starts going out again. They build a new one 2 feet away from where it was, right? So a lot of the protocols are ticking time bombs. I saw this on Cardano early. I was like, wow, this is horrible. Their token's not even going to last 3 months. And I was right. And then in Cosmos, it's different because you have a lot of distractions. You have app chain, vote on props, liquidity pools, lock up this, lock up that. And it takes a while to realize, oh, this is really just an airdrop token with an arbitrary value. It's like you're jump starting an old car, right? To get this, to kick this back up again. I don't know, Osmosis, and then you see all the stuff on Twitter now. The hub is going to buy Osmosis. They're not buying the token. Hopefully, they're buying maybe the migrating liquidity pools to an ICS chain somehow. But who gets compensated for that when probably the team cashed out a lot in the beginning?
I trust them to do it completely fairly, Joe.
Me too. All right, good. I'll hold my couple Osmo tokens just in case I have to make a swap. All right. Osmosis is the one to watch. Osmosis is the linchpin for the whole ecosystem, if I had to guess. I think even more so than UST was at that time. Yes, UST touched up Osmosis a lot probably, but the Osmo token didn't do the platform any favors either. All right, let's continue with UST then. Nobody understands why UST or Luna failed.
Yeah, the big collapse, $40 billion gone in a day, maybe a day and a half. People don't. Nobody admitted that. Very few people admitted that it didn't make sense at the time. Tried decoupling, tried depairing from the ecosystem, but too big to fail does not make sense when you're fundamentally a Fed competitor. And now people are claiming that, oh, well, this didn't work because they were their own collateral. And yes, that's an issue. However, that's not the issue that needs to be understood, because the same groups that were hurt by the Terra Luna collapse, that are trying to do everything differently, that are trying to be over collateralized right now, are falling into the exact same issue while focusing on sustainability, while trying to dodge all those same mistakes. They're running into the same ones because they fundamentally don't understand how collateral works.
And what is that? Is that because no one wants the collateral after a certain point anyway? So you're overpricing your own collateral?
No, it's because you're pricing your collateral. And that's the fundamental issue. When you go to collateralization of any debt position, you have to like collateralize based on the value you could, like whenever the collateral is different from the debt. If I'm going to put up USD collateral for a USD loan, like deposit $5,000 to get a loan for 4,000. One, why would I do that? But two, it is truly safe because you could definitely get your $4,000 back. It's when I now deposit a car that's worth $8,000 for a $5,000 loan. Okay, so I could get $8,000 for the car. What happens if a meteor hits that car? Now I can't. So there's always the issue of the collateral devaluing against what the loan base is. Whenever the collateral is in any type of different asset from the other thing. Now, when it comes to Terra Luna, people are like, oh, Luna is Terra, it doesn't work as collateral. But fundamentally, ignore that aspect. We got $22 billion worth of collateral for $20 billion in a debt. This is the same issue of like, hey, let's tax Elon Musk $100 billion because he's worth $300 billion. He's worth it. He doesn't have it. You can only sell so much Tesla stock. The actual collateral for the $22 billion worth of Luna is like $100 million worth of USD liquidity that could back it. All you have access to is the liquidity.
Say that again.
The real collateral behind UST is the USD valued liquidity that the Luna token had access to.
What percent of that you think compared to the peak market cap?
Yeah, under 5%, but close to 5. Which
I would say 20, but okay.
There was not that many $1 billion worth of liquidity for Luna. There's $22 billion for the valuation of Luna, and $50 to $100 million worth of liquidity, which is good. Like that's a lot of liquidity. I mean, not for stock market, but for crypto markets, absolutely.
Crypto, it's a lot.
But yeah, that's all you actually have access to, with the issue of as soon as you access 1 or 2% of that, it devalues the price so much that it causes this panic spiral, which obviously we saw in real time. So the issue is now, if you look at like the DAI model, everyone assumes like, oh, well, DAI is provably over collateralized. Like they still have this collateralization issue of a bunch of correlated assets that are not the same as the asset that's being like used. And like if Ethereum goes down, then all of those go down with it. Obviously, DAI does a really good job of using a bunch of stables. Stables have their own risk. But in Cosmos, we're replicating the DAI model with less liquid assets. So if Osmosis goes under, or if Atom goes under, everything else in the ecosystem goes under too, and they're all correlated, and poof, they're gone. So it's still worth attempting. The only stablecoin I've seen actually address this and acknowledge this and work with this is called DJED, like DJED, and they focus on the liquidity based against the tokens on it. So like by valuation, they'll maintain like usually over a 400% LTV, but it's because they're focused on the liquidity against the assets they're against, and that's inefficient. Yes, over collateralization is one of the least efficient things you could do with money. You guys are the ones pursuing it.
That's the stable coin that recently launched on Cardano this year, right?
Not sure if it was this year, but yeah.
Cardano was. All right. Last one, Kujira. I love Kujira. I use it. I like the order book decks. I like everything about it. I don't like having to know body parts of whales, but I like that they have a bunch of apps on the same chain. I mean, like
you're a dork.
I have a biology degree, not a marine biology degree, but I'll deal. You said on a podcast recently, Kujira's market cap not justified, and that's based on revenue or something else.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm a huge fan of everything Kujira is doing. They're fighting. Their community is probably the best in Cosmos. Like
I
really,
agree. Yeah, I agree.
So I really, really do like Kujira. I don't think that any market caps are really justified right now.
Fair
if
enough.
you go based on like stock market, like based on valuations, look at revenue metrics, their market cap's really high compared to what they have in TVL and further what they earn from revenue and volume. So I believe in the podcast or the Twitter space that I was in, people were addressing, or I think it was the podcast, and they're asking like, what amount of liquidity would it require to justify their market cap or to grow their market cap? And for anything other than Astro Vault, liquidity is a vanity metric. And people are finally getting that. It used to just be what chains have the highest TVL. And then people are like, oh, crap, we don't actually earn any revenue from our TVL. Real yield is what we can extract via trade fees divided by the liquidity. So now we need concentrated liquidity to minimize the denominator, even though that doesn't actually raise the numerator. It doesn't actually bring in any more revenue. And Astro Vault is the first DeFi protocol to earn significant external revenue, to earn a bunch of money, not from our users, based on the actual liquidity we have. So raising the liquidity on Kujira, unless they adapt to the Astro Vault model, which we are building out into an SDK to make available, unless they integrate that, the liquidity doesn't help. They need a lot more volume, and they need a lot more volume to justify the revenue for things. So there's always the potential for more great stuff to be built and for more business integration, but there's no reason, like, objectively, if I looked at their numbers aside from a market cap and used my business hat on, I would come up with a number much lower than it currently is.
Got it. Okay.
And that's the case for most things, not just Kujira.
How does somebody compare market caps? Like, how do you find the revenue for DEX? And then what are you comparing that to, the emissions and the token price that's going to be forever diminishing? So the 10,000 tokens they emit every day is going to be worth, a week later, half maybe, right? So you're just really, the emissions should increase if the token's going to decrease. And how long can you keep that up, right?
Yeah. So I use the term monetaristic inflation to, which means like money printing supply, to separate from inflation, which like the US would consider the CPI, which is literally just the devaluation of the dollar. So, I mean, if we're printing Atom at a 15% rate and the price is staying the same, then the Atom market cap is growing by 15% per year. And that's kind of what the US has gotten away with for a really long time somehow. Yes, we should assume that money printing does devalue the token. It does dilute it. If you were to assume the same market cap, which markets aren't incredibly efficient at that, then the price would be depreciating by 15% per year for Atom. It should actually be more than that because it's based on the liquidity against it. I do look at printing of the tokens as expenses if you were to look at a balance sheet.
I would too.
The purpose of printing new tokens is to decentralize that expense. If we're going to hold a token and say, oh, we all benefit from the success of a protocol, we own and we share in this success and in this growth, then why don't we share in this expense?
Well, I think they do, because if a percentage of the inflation goes to the community pool, that gets spent on very specific items, development, marketing, whatever. The stakers, in some way, they feel the brunt of that sell pressure when that bulk spend goes through. So that is your decentralized expense. But the trick is, and reading Astro Vault's white paper, is you need to pull some of that out of circulation through some kind of mechanism so that it's just not forever diluting stakers. So
they do dilute stakers, but not efficiently. And they should dilute stakers. The purpose of this monetaristic inflation is to decentralize perpetual expenditure, period. We print dollars and we fund firefighters and police officers and libraries and the military and whatever we want to. And every single US citizen is feeling that at the rate of the dollars that they hold. So actually, billionaires are being diluted to a greater degree than the people that don't have money, because they don't have dollars that are being diluted. Obviously, they feel it from their wages, but still, that's technically speaking how that's working.
Got it. Can we talk about Astro Vault really quick?
Sure. Just
you have some, Ed, what you're going to add?
What Astro Vault's doing now is, like, what we're doing with the monetaristic inflation right now is we're giving it to stakers and validators. That decentralizes the expense of infrastructure provision. It doesn't actually incentivize security very well, and I'm working on changes for that. But it at least covers the validator operation costs. Cool. That's great. That's one expense. What Astro Vault is now doing is saying, yo, you guys all are paying a ton of money for liquidity provision, and that should also be covered from monetaristic inflation, because that is a perpetual expense, and right now the foundation is paying for it, or the core team is paying for it, and you guys are paying a ton of money. What we'll do is, you guys built this out wrong, but we will retroactively solve it based on the model that you built out. It would still be better if you built it out better as an L1 in the first place, but we will at least provide this this backwards compatible band-aid so that you guys don't have to pay $15,000 a month to Osmosis LPs in a way that's forcibly selling your token at $7,000 a month, which is like what we're actually seeing right now. So now, instead of doing that, stop paying them, don't pay us, and we will earn from the system that you already built. Now your stakers and your validators are earning a little bit less. They're not even using our protocol, but now those funds that were going to them, some of them were being sold, are now going and solving your problem for liquidity provision. But meanwhile, it's giving that ownership to the AXV token holders, and it's giving the governance power that those tokens represent of those L1s to the AXV token holder. So if you guys get an AXV airdrop, you can stake AXV to earn Atom and to vote on Atom governance proposals. What else can you do with that?
Yeah, I really like that white paper actually, because it goes into all different ways that a DEX doesn't have to be its own app chain, can earn revenue for the protocol, right? In a way that brings value to the token.
Yeah. We know our clients, we know how to earn revenue, and we optimize for it. It's fascinating that that's controversial.
Let's look at this question here. Is it feasible to a core team to create a new app without a new token and use the tokens already available on the chosen chain?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, look at the NFT marketplaces on Ethereum that don't have their own governance token, and they use Ethereum and they just make their fees. Especially that, I mean, that's kind of the goal of Archway. Liquid Finance has already said like they're a new liquid staking protocol. They'll incentivize from some Arch-based rewards that they're earning. But basically, if you start using SArch for things, they perpetually get paid, but they're not launching a governance token. Because if the purpose, like this is actually something super concerning, and in section 6 of the white paper at astrovault.io/white paper, we go into the math of why all of the LSDs that are being pursued in Cosmos fundamentally don't make sense. Like mathematically, they're not liquid, and they're not going to be liquid. They don't work. If they also add a governance token on it, then what? If the token goes to zero because it's earning barely any revenue, do they just lock up the Atom that's in there? Do they lock up all of your tokens? Is it like some kind of Mexican standoff? Like, well, if you buy so much of our token so we could cash out a little bit, we'll let you guys withdraw your Atom. Like there are... Jay Kwan was really obsessed with the misincentives from the like security layers of where it like incentivizes slashing and some other just kind of weird things, or centralization of governance power. I'm concerned about just the economic lack of feasibility. And so what Astro Vault's doing is kind of solving, one, apps don't make revenue and aren't sustainable, and two, liquid staking tokens are not liquid and are not safe. And so we're combining it where every single application should have their own native app-specific liquid staking derivative so that they can finally earn revenue from the liquidity that they host, and the apps themselves are actually securing the chains that they're working with. And this works for every single application. And we just went to the Atom Accelerator DAO, I think yesterday or the day before, to make what we built into an SDK. So every lending protocol, every DEX can integrate this solution to hopefully save Cosmos.
Great. All right. So watch out for DEX tokens, watch out for liquid staking derivatives, and app chains that hemorrhage money in the bull of the bear market. All right. Yep. Couple things about Astro Vault. It's live. The token's not live, but you could trade some stuff on there. What can people trade right now on Astro Vault?
Arch. We're the only somewhat liquid place for the Arch token currently. Arch, Atom, Jackal, USDC, and Ethereum, both from Axelar. So just those 5 tokens right now. We have about $520,000 in liquidity, and we just posted yesterday on Twitter that we've been live for a week and we've made $5,000.
So for people that want to just play around with it, easiest way to get over there, just IBC some Atom over to to Archway, and you could do a couple swaps. Check that out. Yeah,
and Arch is the gas token, but you can buy Arch for the first time on Astro Vault. If you go to astrovault.io, look at the trade page at the bottom, it'll say like use our fee grant, and it'll prompt you to send over half an Atom or a little bit of USDC or ETH, and you can make that first trade. We'll pay for the Arch, but you will eventually need Arch as the gas token on the platform.
Got it. Okay, and all the same wallets.
Kepler, Leap, Cosmos Station.
Which one do you like for Astro Vault?
I mean, we've worked endlessly with all the teams. So they work with Ledger, they work on mobile. Leap just announced that like we're integrated into their app browser now. Cool. I really like Leap.
Got it. Okay. All right. And then aside from Astro Vault, can you tease any other apps that people can look forward to in the next couple of months?
I
NFT
really,
marketplace, anything
yeah, I really like
DGenny?
architect.zone. We talked about an NFT marketplace not necessarily needing its own chain. It's expensive. Well, minimizing expenses and maximizing revenue, architect.zone is not only a really cool NFT marketplace that solves a bunch of Ethereum problems, like what Archway does enable, where now you can stop the bypassing of royalties through escrow services. And it's the team behind it has done so much work in NFT space already in Cosmos that they really are front runners on this. But in addition to being an NFT marketplace, they're also a DAO tooling platform. So you can mint your NFTs and automatically have your DAO and your custom governance set up with Jackal storage integrated for backups or for usability. Like there's just so much more you can do through this simple app than you've been able to do on entire existing app chains.
Yeah, NFT marketplaces need DAO tooling. Like this whole thing of like go in the Discord and like
Yeah.
check off all the fire hydrants is the dumbest thing that crypto has right now.
Pick up the fire hydrants.
Then like click the bicycles, right? Or whatever it is. All right. Anything else about Astro Vault? You know, it's in its early stages, no token, not all the pools that are in the white paper are available on the decks right now. But what can people do? They can LP and earn some airdrop later on, retroactive airdrop.
Yep.
If you want to put your address, people can tip you through my channel, I guess.
Right now, you'll notice if you go to Astro Vault that we say we have earned $5,000 and the LP rewards are 0. And that's because we are proving that this model works. We've had a lot of people say, what do you mean? Like if this made sense, this is what would have been done forever ago. And no, somehow the same model has been replicated forever. What actually happened in DeFi is the Uniswap people, 5 guys, wanted to find a way to put Coinbase on chain because they read Satoshi's white paper and were like, oh, we have to bypass these third-party companies or else we're not truly decentralized. Well, in order to make trades on chain, we need liquidity. So let's take the revenue that was going to Coinbase and let's give it to these liquidity providers. And oh my God, guys, it's working. We did it. Hey, this is awesome. Well, shit, how do we monetize this? The revenue that Coinbase was earning, we just gave to these LPs, and now we don't have any revenue. Let's launch a token.
Yep.
And that is literally the model that's been replicated. We don't have revenue, so let's launch a token. And that is why DEX tokens fundamentally suck. So what we did is instead go with what Coinbase is doing and stake the atom and then only have enough available for withdrawals, which we made our own proprietary model to make that work on DEXs. And we're doing it. So if you're LPing on Astro Vault, depending on the pool, the X derivatives are representatives of staked assets. You can unmint them. You have full access to them. But the AXV DAO is earning the Atom staking rewards, the Jackal staking rewards, the Arch staking rewards, which is what really makes our protocol viable, like economically sustainable, whereas everything else isn't. So go LP there. And when we do launch the token in a couple months, timeline's coming very soon, our airdrop will basically retroactively incentivize all of the early LPs and traders.
Got it. All right. Well, you guys heard it, and we'll do a video in another week or two specifically on Astro Vault. I thought it was really interesting, the different elements of, bringing revenue not only to the team, to the actual holders of the token, which is like a foreign concept, right? In DeFi, like you said, people just think tokens are good because they're tokens and they must have value because of 2016, 2017 ICOs. If you don't catch lightning in a bottle, you're holding these tokens that are just diluting you from now to the end of time. So I really appreciate it, man. And Don looks like he needs someone to sponsor the channel. He must think that you look rich. So Don, he'll DM you for sure sometime in 2023 and you guys can discuss. But yeah, how about in like a week or two, we come back and just talk about Astro Vault, go through the key white paper components, LSDs, all that.
Sounds great, bro.
All right. Awesome. Thanks a lot, man.
Joe, love the channel. Thanks